There's a plant that survived the Dust Bowl. While drought killed corn, wheat, and soybeans across the American Midwest in the 1930s, this plant kept growing, producing seeds, feeding people who knew what it was. That same plant contains 15 grams of protein per 100 grams of dry seed, comparable to beef, higher than most grains, and unlike most plant proteins, it contains all 9 essential amino acids. Ancient Aztec warriors ate it before battle. The Inca grew it as a staple crop for centuries. And right now, in the United States, you cannot find it in a single major grocery store chain as a fresh vegetable. The plant is amaranth, and what happened to it over the last 500 years is one of the stranger stories in the history of food. Amaranth was a cornerstone of the Aztec food system for at least 6,000 years. It wasn't just food, it was currency. Aztec historical records show that surrounding tribes paid amaranth as tribute to Tenochtitlan, the Aztec capital. Entire economies ran on this plant. When the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, they witnessed amaranth being used in Aztec religious ceremonies and banned its cultivation. Conquistadors burned the fields. Farmers who grew it risked punishment. The Spanish were trying to destroy a religion, and amaranth was tangled up in it. As a result, a crop that had fed millions of people for thousands of years nearly vanished from cultivation. It survived in isolated mountain communities in Mexico and Peru. Farmers kept growing it quietly for centuries, but it never recovered its place as a mainstream food crop in the Americas. Today, amaranth is grown commercially in parts of Mexico, India, China, and Eastern Europe. It's eaten regularly in those countries. In the United States, the plant still grows wild. It's actually classified as a weed in several states, but it has essentially no presence in the American food supply, despite the fact that its nutritional profile is remarkable by any measure. Here is the nutritional data from a USDA Food Data Central database for 100 grams of uncooked amaranth grain. Protein, 13 to 15 grams. The USDA lists it 13.6 grams. Though some studies cite up to 15 grams, depending on variety. For comparison, 100 grams of cooked beef sirloin contains about 26 grams of protein. So amaranth's protein content per gram of dry weight is roughly 50 to 60% of beef. But here's the critical difference. Amaranth weighs almost nothing and is shelf-stable for years. A pound of amaranth grain stores in your pantry indefinitely and provides many times more meals than a pound of beef. Iron, 7.6 milligrams per 100 grams. That's 42% of the daily recommended intake. Magnesium, 248 milligrams, about 59% of the daily recommended intake. Calcium, 159 milligrams. Fiber, 6.7 grams. And then there's the amino acid profile, which is what makes amaranth genuinely unusual among plant foods. It contains all 9 essential amino acids, the ones your body cannot produce on its own and must get from food. Most grain crops are deficient in lysine, which is the amino acid that limits how well your body can actually use the protein. Amaranth is unusually high in lysine. That's why nutritional researchers describe it as a complete protein, which is a term more commonly used for animal products. The USDA amino acid data confirms the presence of all 9 essential amino acids: tryptophan, threonine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, valine, and histidine, all present, all in meaningful quantities. Wild amaranth grows across the entire United States. Several species grow here, and they're all edible, both the leaves and the seeds. The most common wild varieties you'll encounter are Amaranthus retroflexus, which is called rough pigweed or redroot amaranth, and Amaranthus hybridus, called smooth amaranth or green amaranth. Here's how to identify it. Amaranth grows upright, anywhere from 2 to 6 feet tall. The stems are thick and often have a reddish or purplish tinge, especially at the base. That's where the name redroot comes from. The leaves are oval to diamond-shaped with slightly wavy edges, and they have a prominent central vein. In summer and fall, the plant produces dense clusters of flowers along the tops of the stems and in the leaf joints. Those flower clusters are where the seeds develop. The seeds are tiny, round, and shiny black or cream colored depending on the variety. Amaranth leaves are edible raw or cooked when the plant is young and small. As the plant matures and the leaves get larger, they become better cooked than raw. The seeds are what you really want for long-term storage and maximum nutrition. To harvest seeds, wait until the flower clusters at the top of the plant start to dry out and turn brown. Bend the seed head over a bag and run your hand along it. The seeds will fall off easily. Dry them completely before storing. A single large amaranth plant can produce half a pound of seeds or more. You can eat two completely different parts of the amaranth plant, and they're used in completely different ways. The leaves, when the plant is young and under about 2 feet tall, are cooked like any leafy green. Sauté them with olive oil and garlic. Add them to soups, or blanch them and dress them with lemon. The flavor is mild and pleasant, a lot like spinach. In parts of Mexico and Central America, the cooked greens are called quintonil and are considered a delicacy, not a weed. The grain is where the real food security value is. Amaranth grain is cooked the same way you'd cook quinoa. Rinse it first. This removes some of the natural saponins on the surface that can taste bitter. Then use a 2-to-1 water-to-grain ratio, bring it to a boil, reduce to a simmer, cover, and cook for about 20 minutes until the water is absorbed. The cooked grain has a slightly sticky, porridge-like texture. It's nutty and mild. You can also pop amaranth like popcorn. Heat a dry pan over high heat. Add a tablespoon of dry amaranth grain, shake the pan. In about 10 seconds, you'll have tiny puff seeds. They have a light, nutty flavor, and you can eat them like a cereal or use them as a topping. This is a traditional preparation that goes back centuries. Amaranth flour, made by grinding the dry grain, can replace up to 25% of wheat flour in most baking recipes. It's naturally gluten-free, which is why it's shown up recently in specialty health food stores under the quinoa alternative label, usually at about $8 a bag. It grows as a weed in your yard. Growing amaranth is almost laughably easy. It's essentially a self-maintaining crop. Direct sow the seeds after your last frost date. Scatter them on the soil surface. They need light to germinate, same as purslane, and press them gently in with your hand. Water once. Thin the seedlings to about 18 inches apart when they're a few inches tall. That's it. Amaranth does not need fertilizer. It does not need regular irrigation once established. It actually grows better in poor, dry soil than in rich, amended garden soil. Now back to the drought story, because this is the point that matters most for food security. Amaranth is a C4 plant, a specific photosynthesis pathway that makes it dramatically more water efficient than most food crops. Corn, wheat, soybeans, and most vegetables use C3 photosynthesis. In hot, dry conditions, C3 plants lose large amounts of water through their leaves. C4 plants like amaranth partially close that loop. They use water 3 to 5 times more efficiently than C3 crops. That is why amaranth kept producing food during droughts that killed everything else. It's not magic. It's plant physiology. And it's why food security researchers around the world are taking a serious second look at amaranth as a crop for a changing climate. You don't need to wait for researchers to catch up. You can grow it this season. A crop that fed millions of people for 6,000 years was nearly erased in the 1500s because it got tangled up in the wrong politics. It survived. It's still here. And right now it's growing as a weed in backyards across the United States, while people buy the nutritionally inferior version, quinoa, at $8 a bag. That's the story of this channel. Useful plants are everywhere. The knowledge of how to use them just needs to be passed back down. Subscribe if you want more of that. In the next video, I'm covering a plant that most people consider purely dangerous, something you've definitely been worn away from your whole life. But the research on it is stunning. And the people who have been eating it for centuries in Northern Europe and the Pacific Northwest have known something the rest of us forgot.